Everybody, are you ready to get cooking? Today we're going to be making a tofu breakfast scramble. It is made from tofu. Now there are a number of different kinds of tofu that you can buy. For this particular recipe, I like to get it from the produce section where it needs to stay cold. And this is a firmer tofu, and I'll tell you one trick that I do is I bring my tofu home in these plastic containers and put it straight into the freezer. If I know I'm going to be using it for things like this scramble or for other things where I want it to be even more firm, because any of you who have cooked with tofu before, you know it's pretty mushy. Even the firmer or extra firmer versions of it can be very soft. And if you want it to be able to be crumbly like we need for this recipe, put it in your freezer. Leave it in there a week longer. I like it because you don't have to worry about the expiration date. You put it in your freezer, you've got it when you need it. So I want to show you what happens to tofu when you freeze it. But before we do that, let's get started with sauteing a few of the onions and the mushrooms. And I'm going to start that not with oil, because you know that we don't cook with oil. Start by cooking the onions and the mushrooms, and to do that we're going to use a little bit of vegetable broth. You could also use water if you wanted to, but veggie broth adds even a little more flavor. These are some onions that I've diced, and we're going to add some mushrooms. You can use button mushrooms. These are portobello mushrooms, but any type of mushrooms that you have. We're going to try to brown these up just a little bit and get some great flavor from them. I'm going to turn the heat up just a smidgen. While we are letting that get hot, I want to talk to you about the tofu. So the tofu that we're going to be using is from the produce section, and you know it's packed in a lot of water. So I'm going to open the container. This is not that important, but to open the container and drain the water from it. And like I said, this has been frozen. So normally you would need a tofu press and a lot of time or some time to get the water out. But with previously frozen tofu, we can squeeze it out with our hands. See how easy that is? It's almost like a sponge. There's no tofu press needed or anything. Once it's been frozen and defrosted, it changes the texture of it and makes it very easy to handle. So it's truly more like a sponge. So now we are going to crumble this tofu into our pan with the mushrooms and the onions. It's going to be flavored in just a minute. You know, you can add red bell peppers to this and saute them with the onions and with the mushrooms, and I do that sometimes. Other times I use cherry tomatoes instead, and today we're going to be using the cherry tomatoes. So I'm not sauteing them with these other vegetables. If I were using the red bell pepper, I would have already added that. So now we've got this crumbled. We're going to go ahead and add a little bit of dry turmeric. I also add some nutritional yeast. This is not baking yeast. This is nutritional yeast just for flavoring. It gives it a cheesy, nutty flavor. And I also use a little bit of liquid amino. You could even use soy sauce for this flavoring instead if you do not have the amino acid. Now we're going to go ahead and add the tomatoes and a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. And just let this stir for just a minute. You can see it's already getting a little bit of the orange tint from the spices. And turmeric also is terrific for inflammation. So anytime you can add that into your recipes, you get the nutritional benefits as well as the flavoring. So this is starting to look really nice. Then the last thing I'm going to add to this is fresh spinach leaves. I know that this looks like a lot of spinach, but these leaves wilt very quickly, and you don't want to add it any sooner than now because they don't really need to cook, they just need to wilt. So we're going to let them do their thing. Give them just a minute. I'm actually going to cover it for a minute too to help them hold in the moisture. This is not the lid that goes on this pan, but hey, it will do the trick for now. Okay, so it's just been a couple of minutes with this, and as you can see that the spinach leaves are just beautifully bright. Whoop, popping out there. Bright and green, but you can see how they have wilted, and this is such a beautiful, go ahead and turn it off, a beautiful breakfast scramble. And this, all the recipes we're going to be making today are on my website, and this particular one, if you go to the search bar on my website, EatPlant-Based, then just type in scramble, tofu scramble, scramble, anything, and you will find it. You can serve it as is with toast or with grits. I sometimes like to put them in a wrap. If you're looking for a wrap without oil, Ezekiel has some wraps, and I think Engine 2 also has oil-free whole wheat wraps. But these are great for handing to someone who is headed out the door for breakfast. So I'm going to show you how I wrap these up. We're losing some of them, got to stuff them back in. But they really are a great, savory, hearty breakfast that will keep the family full. Just as it is with grits and toast, or whether you serve it as a breakfast burrito, I think the whole family is going to enjoy these.